Let's cross live to the States now to Matthew Bryza. He's a former White House official in the Obama administration and joins us to talk about the US presidential election as we enter the final day of campaigning ahead of the polls officially opening tomorrow. Although, Matthew Bryza, it's extraordinary that early voting in America is a very big thing. 75 million people have already cast their ballots either in person or by postal ballot. So do we have any clue how they've actually voted?
Yeah, that's, by the way, a record turnout for early voting. And you'll remember in the last election, Donald Trump discouraged his voters from doing that. Now he encourages it. So it looks like so far more Republicans have voted early than Democrats. But that's, it's just in terms of the people that are registered. And we've got so many more millions to come. But so far, it looks like that might be an advantage to the Republicans.
It might be interesting there, because often the thought is that early voters, they'll be Democrats. A lot of talk also about the women's vote and how women are more likely to turn out, perhaps vote to Democrat because of the abortion issue. The fascinating thing about covering anything to do with American elections is how much everything is talked about in terms of black and white, male and female, rural and urban, and young and old, and how these big dividing lines. We're actually looking at the stats, certainly for the last election in 2020, which was, a clear win. I know Donald Trump doesn't accept it's a clear win for the Democrats. We saw, huge number of people who were Latino or were black or were women or were college educated who voted for Trump. This idea that, there are certain groups that vote for one side and certain groups for the other is a bit of a lie, isn't it?
It's really mixed, yeah. So the traditional breakdown where Latinos and blacks mostly voted for Democrats, that may be breaking down. And last time we spoke, we mentioned the Puerto Rico comments. And why that's significant is because the most important state probably at the end here is Pennsylvania, and it's got almost 500,000 Puerto Rican American voters. So the big divide this time seems to be men versus women, with Harris ahead of something like 53 to 45 among women, and Trump with pretty much the same among men. All those other rural, urban, there's still a difference there, but the real difference this time is women and men.
Yeah, that's going to be fascinating to see, isn't it? Well, let's talk about those key states, the swing states everyone talks about. Crucial ones, the Rust Belt, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Also, we've got the Sun Belt, Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Nevada. Now, key thing about these states, particularly the Rust Belt states, the northern states, is that in every election in recent years, they have all flipped together. They were Democrat, all flipped together to vote for Trump in 2016, all flipped back on a tiny margin back to vote Democrat in 2020. Basically, if you don't win Pennsylvania, you're probably not going to be president of the United States. What are the polls telling us in those states? Because let's face it, this is not going to be a vote that's going to be decided by every single one of the many hundreds of millions of Americans. It's going to be decided by a few 100,000 people living in one of these 7 states.
Yeah, I mean, Biden won the last election by 43,000 votes in one of those 3 Rust Belt states. So yeah, and it was like 80,000 for Trump over Clinton. So right now, Pennsylvania looks absolutely tied. And it's going to come down to, it looks like, the city of Philadelphia, but also the educated voters and more affluent voters in something called Bucks County. So they're collar communities around Philadelphia, especially Bucks County, that had been traditionally Republican, but has been leaning a little bit more Democratic because of the educational divide that we talked about before. Michigan and Wisconsin, Harris had been polled lately slightly ahead, but within the margin of error. And so, it doesn't really tell us anything. In fact, a great quote I heard in the Washington Post a couple of days ago was that all of the 7 battleground states are within the margin of error. So it could either be razor thin, or it could be one candidate or the other wins in a landslide, because it could get all of those 7 states. So we don't really know anything.
Yeah, and the crucial thing is it could be 49-51 or even less than 1% difference, and yet all of those electoral votes in the electoral college, and they go to the winning candidate. I think it's only 2 states in the whole of America that don't do that. So it's all to play for. In terms of the battles that are going on in the final day, that we've seen these big sort of speeches, big rallies, a lot of name calling, a lot of talk from the Democrats. This is existential for democracy. The usual name calling from Donald Trump as well. In terms of what you're seeing from the campaigns, who's looking the most anxious? Who's looking the most comfortable?
Last week, definitely, Harris was looking the most anxious, and the Republicans were the most confident, including people I know within both campaigns. Over the last couple of days, that's shifted a bit, and the Democrats now seem much more confident. There seems to be some sort of a breaking of female vote toward Harris right now. It's not. This is.
And is that abortion? Is that a single issue, abortion issue, or is it over Donald Trump's history with women as well, or?
It's both. It's both. And some of his comments in recent days, I mean, there's a weird thing where he was making some sort of sexual gesture with a microphone the other day. And a bunch of others. Yeah, it was ugly. So it's the fact that I think he's being so aggressive and his history with women, but also abortion, I think, is a big issue, too.
Yeah, we were just discussing earlier, it was a major tactical error, I thought, by Donald Trump to appease his conservative Christian backers. That's part of the deal. I'll appoint a load of Supreme Court judges that will bring this about. And again, it's not about an abortion. It's a state issue, not a federally supported issue. But we have seen bans in a number of states. But again, I would have thought if women feel strongly about that, make that your single issue, vote on that, get that sorted. It's the sort of thing that would swing my vote. Have the Democrats come to terms with the idea that if Donald Trump is so awful, and I'm not a fan of his. I was appalled by him getting elected in 2016. I was relieved when he didn't win in 2020, and even though he still hasn't got that memo that he lost. Right now, if I were in America, I'd be swinging between the two, because Kamala Harris is such a bad candidate. She's an empty vessel. She's a diversity hire. She is extraordinarily an uncomfortable listen and a watch. I don't think she knows or thinks anything at all about. I don't think she has a single policy. I think she has a single belief, a single principle. I think she's literally, a waste of space in a trouser suit. But if Donald Trump is so awful and such an existential threat, why is Kamala Harris not, 80 points ahead?
Yeah, that's the great question that is causing the Democrats to scratch their heads, and she's way ahead in fundraising lately as well. I mean, Biden,
and all those celebrities,
down, right? And by the way, celebrities that aren't just like Beyonce and Bruce Springsteen, but ones that come from sectors or appeal to sectors of the electorate that normally don't participate in elections. Like hardcore rappers, etc., and hip hop people.
Yeah. So, they should probably learn that lesson, should they not? Time is against us. I know we'll be speaking to you again very soon. I hope you'll join us. Matthew Bryza, former White House official in the Obama administration.